On an Independence Day for a country rooted in immigration, President Obama tries to put a positive spin on a most divisive issue. This is Special Reports. Good evening, I'm Shannon Bream in for Brett Baer. 238 years after a group of 13 colonies made up of immigrants and their descendants declared their independence, the issue of immigration is commanding a nation's attention tonight. And a president whose actions have been politically divisive tried to turn the page, at least for a day. Here's Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry.
Happy 4th of July.
President Obama today tried to shift the focus of the immigration debate to beautiful pictures of patriotism and away from the ugly scenes down at the southern border as the humanitarian crisis plays out, along with some tense political pushback. The president hosting a naturalization ceremony for more than a dozen immigrants who served America in the military despite not being full U.S. citizens.
Together, all of you remind us that America is and always has been a nation of immigrants.
As the chaos continues along the border, Republicans today declared the president needs to remember America is also a nation of laws.
He's not following the law, and so that's why some of us are saying very clearly, until the president will follow the law, secure the border. It's his oath to faithfully execute the laws. Until he does that, there's no sense in doing reform.
Republicans charge the president's executive actions helped cause the crisis in the first place and are now demanding the president actually visit the border next Wednesday or Thursday when he'll be in Texas for Democratic fundraising.
There are a whole range of senior officials in this administration over the course of the last 3 or 4 weeks who have spent a lot of time in the southwest border.
You'll send a FEMA director, all these people, but then the president himself goes there and he meets with the families, he holds their hands, he talks to them, he tries to get a sense. Why can't he do that this time?
The president has a very good sense of what's happening on the border.
Texas Governor Rick Perry, a frequent administration critic, this week officially invited the president to tour the border with him.
Without standing up and saying, this border is going to be secure, the American people do not trust him, and they don't trust Washington, to implement any policies that would deal with the issue of immigration.
White House officials say if Perry really wants to help, he'll call fellow Republicans on Capitol Hill to help the president pass comprehensive reform.
We shouldn't be making it harder for the best and the brightest to come here and create jobs here and grow our economy here. We should be making it easier. And that's why I'm going to keep doing. He agrees with me.
The president picking up some support there in the East Room, but not on Capitol Hill where it counts. Speaker John Boehner has signaled this issue is dead, at least until after the midterm elections. Shannon?
All right, Ed Henry at the White House. We'll talk about it with a panel. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Immigration is hardly the only issue causing emotional and political distress tonight. All you have to do is put gas in your car to realize energy policy is going to be a major issue in the November election. Chief Political Correspondent Carl Cameron has that story tonight.
With the midterm elections looming and temperatures and gasoline prices rising with the summer travel season, Democrats are again buzzing about climate change and energy policy. Vulnerable incumbent Democratic Senator Mary Landrieu of Louisiana faces a tough re-election and as chair of the Senate Energy Committee backs the Keystone XL pipeline. But fellow Democrats are refusing to let her bill come up for a vote, giving GOP rival and Congressman Bill Cassidy a potent attack on Landrieu for lackluster leadership in Washington. And the polls show a dead heat. In energy-producing Alaska, vulnerable Democratic Senator Mark Begich says he's for more production. That puts him so at odds with the Obama administration that Begich says he's not interested in even campaigning with the president.
We stood strong and turned this basin into a source of new energy.
That's Dan Sullivan, Alaska's Commissioner of Natural Resources, who's one of 4 GOP primary rivals committed to more energy production and booting Begich. In Colorado, Senate incumbent Democrat Mark Udall opposes Keystone and proposed a ban on fracking. The Republican, Congressman Cory Gardner, backs Keystone and fracking and got a bill passed in the House to expand liquid natural gas exports. He's now neck and neck in the polls with Udall. In Michigan, liberal billionaire Tom Steyer's super PAC is trying to make the environment an issue by noting a 2010 pipeline rupture that leaked nearly 1 million gallons of oil into the Kalamazoo River in the nation's worst ever inland spill. The Democrats' Senate candidate is Congressman Gary Peters.
This is about our nation's independence.
Michigan Republican Secretary of State Terry Lynn Land argues that Democratic opposition to energy development makes U.S. independence from foreign oil more difficult and undercuts the economy. In Maine, green politics by the opposition could help help re-elect Republican incumbent Governor Paul LePage. His Democratic rival is Congressman Mike Michaud, who backs climate change legislation. And so does a third candidate, Independent Elliott Cutler, who helped draft the Clean Air and Water Acts back in the 1970s. He could take Democrat and Green votes from Michaud and help Republican Governor LePage win a second term.
Democrats are trying to energize liberal voters, but opposing energy development undercuts Democrats from red and energy-producing states, and that ultimately could end up helping Republicans. Shannon?
We'll have to see. Carl, thank you. Good to see you. Well, the Tea Party Republican who lost last week's Senate primary in Mississippi says he will challenge the results. Chris McDaniel says in a cable news interview his campaign found at least 5,000 voting irregularities in his defeat by incumbent Thad Cochran. Of course, you don't have to be a politician to be a big player in politics. Billionaire Richard Mellon Scaife was one such player. The frequent contributor to libertarian and conservative causes died early today. Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen takes a look back.
I wish you would have a whole program or a whole segment devoted to Richard Mellon Scaife.
An heir to the Mellon banking and oil fortune, Richard Mellon Scaife was among the first wealthy Americans to use his money in a concerted way to nudge American politics to the right. Disenchanted after Watergate with Richard Nixon, to whose campaign Scaife had given over $1 million, the Pennsylvania billionaire started investing more heavily in media, the arts, and think tanks.
He was not only a conservative, but he was a great philanthropist who gave money to art galleries, to universities, to historical sites. But he was a conservative, and this would be the father of conservative think tanks like the American Enterprise Institute and the Heritage Foundation, and even the Hoover Institution at Stanford in California.
In the early 90s, Scaife bankrolled investigative journalism to expose adultery and other alleged improprieties by Bill Clinton, prompting Hillary Clinton and other defenders of the president to invoke a vast right-wing conspiracy. Indeed, Scaife peddled dark conspiracy theories in the deaths of Clinton confidants Vince Foster and Ron Brown. Still, his funding of the American Spectator helped bring about the inquest in which the president testified falsely, which in turn triggered impeachment.
Toward the end of his life, he befriended the Clintons. He endorsed Hillary Clinton for president in 2008. He gave $100,000 to the Clinton Global Initiative. He made his peace with the Clintons, but he did a lot of damage along the way, and it very much damaged the Clinton legacy.
Like the Koch brothers, Scaife was publicity shy and sometimes difficult for conservatives to reckon with.
This was a man who knew his own mind, and if he was off the reservation on some conservative issue like the war in Iraq, he felt quite comfortable being there.
Scaife announced in May that he had untreatable cancer. Family friends said he was on the phone receiving well wishes hours before he died. Richard Mellon Scaife was 82. In Washington, James Rosen, Fox News.
On a weekend celebrated by fireworks, Hurricane Arthur has turned out to be something of a dud along the North Carolina coast. The season's first named storm thankfully failed to cause massive damage as it tried to rain on the parade of holiday revelers. Correspondent Jonathan Sari has the latest from the Outer Banks.
Hurricane Arthur crossed the Outer Banks during the early morning hours, pushing water, sand, and debris onto portions of Highway 12 and temporarily cutting off access to Hatteras Island. But the storm, even with 100-mile-per-hour winds, caused far less damage to homes and businesses than many had feared.
Happy 4th of July. This has been actually a very good day. There have been no casualties or serious injuries reported, and that was our #1 goal. So that puts a big smile on all our faces.
The storm departed on a northeast path, taking it south of Cape Cod, but losing strength over cooler waters. Arthur could not have come at a worse time for tourists who flock to the Outer Banks in droves each year for Independence Day vacations. Many decided to hunker down on the islands and make the hurricane part of the experience. Were you scared?
No. No, not at all. It was pretty funny actually because my dad was scared.
Maybe not scared, but we were prepared, but we wanted to ride it out. This is our once-a-year vacation and once-in-a-lifetime experience here at the Outer Banks.
Given that it was a Category 2, I was expecting it to be a lot worse.
Surf school owner Robert Farmer has run various small businesses on the Outer Banks for 2 decades. He says you learn to put the storms in perspective.
It's a risk being here, but you know, there's a reason people vacation here.
And despite Arthur's bad timing, the storm system moved out of here quickly, and beachgoers wasted no time returning. And now that the sun is popping in and out of the clouds, many of these coastal communities have decided to go forward with their Independence Day celebrations over this long holiday weekend. Shannon?
Yeah, and Jonathan, we can see behind you there, a lot of folks are already back on the beach. Is it safe for them to get in the water and pick up where they left off?
It's safe if you're an experienced swimmer. In fact, we're seeing some surfers way out there in the heavy surf, but lifeguards who are back on duty are urging novice swimmers to stay close to shore, and it's not a problem because most of the people are staying right on the shore, but again, enjoying the beach now that the sun is coming in and out of the clouds after 24 hours of storm. Back to you.
All right, Jonathan, glad to hear the damage was minimal. Thank you. Up next, fireworks in the Middle East, and not the 4th of July kind. But first, here's what some of our Fox affiliates are covering tonight. Fox 10 in Phoenix with a chicken recall. California-based Foster Farms has issued a recall for 170 different chicken products that came from its Fresno facilities in March. They are linked to an antibiotic-resistant strain of salmonella. Fox 17 in Nashville with a one-time monk who took a lifelong vow of poverty, winning the $259 million Powerball jackpot. Brother Roy Cockram says he plans to use most of the money to start a foundation to support performing arts organizations all over the country. And this is a live look at New York from Fox 5. One of the big stories there tonight, the annual Coney Island hot dog eating contest. A double win for Joey Chestnut this year. Before the event, he proposed to his longtime girlfriend. She said yes, by the way. Then he packed away 61 dogs to hang on to the title. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.